Hello, today I want to do a video from our Yellowstone Country book. It's called Weaver's Lost Ledge. The story takes place in 1863 according to some and others 1864, and it was after Virginia City. Most of the good ground was already staked out. So miners that were arriving, they needed to find somewhere that they could get their gold, and they spread out throughout the region in their search to be rich. Weaver was among a group of miners who, along with others, went to what was known as Emigrant Peak in the Emigrant Gulch region. And so at the time, people were placer mining, and a little community called Yellowstone City formed. Native Americans tolerated them for a while and eventually started to do some attacking. And story is that in this region there were small caches from the miners that are still in the region, but I wonder how many of them are really there, because years later dredging took place. But anyway, with winter coming on, and the hostilities that are starting to be more frequent, most of the miners left the region and decided to return when times are better. But Weaver and his group figured that there's this placer gold, so it has to be coming from somewhere, and they decided to search for the ledge or lode that it was coming from, the so-called mother lode. So anyway, Weaver and his group ended up being successful on finding a rich location, and they, according to the story, had accumulated so much gold, and they took as much as they could when they left, but they cached, according to the story, some gold that was too much to take with them. They also took ore samples, and these assayed at like 5,000 a ton. But as the story goes, later on, this group of miners that were with Weaver all went different ways, and they never reformed to go back to that area. And so possibly Last Chance Gulch drew some away. Confederate Gulch, Diamond City region might have drew others away. And so Weaver ended up going back to Pennsylvania. And when he was there, he got started in other businesses. And years later, when his wife had passed away and his children were grown up, he decided to return and try to locate this rich area of gold. And this time that he re-entered Montana to search again was 50 years later, and the year was 1916. But everything looked different, and he could never find the location anymore. So we included some different old newspaper articles with our story, our topo maps. The topo maps around Emigrant Peak show Gold Prize Creek, Gold Run Creek. So there's creeks coming off Emigrant Peak that have gold in the name. So obviously they were gold bearing for the early prospectors. Today, there's different groups. I believe there's one from Canada trying to get permission to look for gold in that region, but it's along the route going into northern Yellowstone National Park, and so no attempt by them has been successful up to this time to come in commercially and mine for gold because of the concerns about damage to the environment. And so much like the area around Jardine is another one of these sections where a group from Australia wanted to mine, and that's been fought off successfully too. And so environmental concerns have stopped the search for gold in these regions, but the Weaver's Lost Ledge story is where the story is there's gold still there, and people to this day still want to find this gold. So anyway, the story is in our Yellowstone Country book, and Weaver's Lost Ledge. It's one of the early lost gold stories of the state of Montana, dating back to the early days of around 1864. And so I hope you enjoyed the story, and until next time, have a good day.